Hello everyone, welcome live to the TFR Super Cup Round 3 at Suzuka Circuit. For those of you who watched the 2.4 and still here, hello! To all you TFR people who's just joined the stream, hello to you as well. I'm Will Vincent. Alongside me, in the virtual world at least, is Rob Sutherland. Hi Rob, it's a bit of a marathon for us today.
Good evening chaps, nothing a few beers and Red Bulls can't sort out. We are at the lovely Suzuka today for the TFR Super Cup. Round number 2. Feel free to chuck comments on Twitter. We're under hashtag TFR Super Cup. We're looking for a packed grid today. 31 drivers currently have participated in qualification and split between 14 cars currently in the Corvette class and a few more in the busier Ford GT class.
And I tell you what, a couple of these drivers are doing double duty today. They've just run a 2.4, run over, jumped into the Super Cup, and realised they've got a point championship to run for.
Yeah, absolutely. But one big miss from the championship this week is currently a chap by the name of Evan Malliard, who had finished 3rd in the top tier Daytona race earlier.
And it was a great race for him. Had an unfortunate incident in the last the last 10 minutes when he was involved in a wreck with his spinning prototype, but managed to get back down pit lane, get repaired, get back out, and still take 3rd as the car who inherited his 3rd position decided that he needs to pit 1 lap to go.
Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to explain to you guys that this is a 90-minute race. There will be a pace lap. There will be a little bit of a discrepancy. If any of you guys have seen the replay or the running of the Daytona, then you'll notice there will be a time and miss sync in the bottom right hand side of your screen. But don't worry about that. We will talk you through that when they run on their pace lap.
It won't be as big here, by the way. It will be, instead of being, I think it was 3.5 minutes at Daytona, it'll be slightly less here because you don't get a full pace lap at Suzuka. Cars will be good on the backstretch.
Okay, so I think we're going to walk to grid now. Qualification's over. I'll give you a quick rundown when the grid forms. About a minute or two away.
Yep, the checkered flag has shown in the session, but drivers have enough time to be able to go around and do whatever lap they're on. So if they pass the checkered flag 1 second to go, they can still do this lap. And I'm currently looking at the pink car, the famous pink car who we were taking the mickey out of last week. We'll take the mickey out of it again. The number 69 machine of David Ward. He loves it being taken the mickey out of, though.
We can also see in the top 3 of qualification, Carl McGurk, who qualified 2nd with a 1:55.429, just pips Kieran Peace, who had a 1:55.430. Very close. Yep,
and Peterson, who had a very bad, unfortunate accident on lap 2 of the last race at Road America, we talked about that heavily, has qualified on pole, which is very good of him. So, you know, bouncing back from the unfortunateness of last week at Road America. And the brothers of Nico Brandt and Oliver Brandt, I just noticed there, 4th and 5th on the grid.
I've been told, because I did speak to them on Monday, that they are not brothers. I did ask them straight, said, are you guys brothers? Are you guys father and son? And they said, no, we're mother and daughter.
Okay, so the mother and daughter combination of Nico Brandt and Oliver Brandt are currently in 4th and 5th. To run through the entire field, first of all, in the Corvette, David S. Peterson, a qualifying time of 1:54.9. Carl McGurk in 2nd in the number 58 machine. Rounds out row number 1. Row 2, Kieran Pearce and Nico Brandt. Nico's daughter, Oliver Brandt, in row number 3 with Ian Rogers, Farouk Manzar and John Maloney, row 4. Rob Straitmans and Stephen Van Heltjen in row number 5. The pink car, David Ward alongside Christian Nilsson in row number 6. Row 7, Robert Laurie, Neil Heckind. And the last of the Corvettes is Tero Dahlberg. And go on, you can do the GTs for once, Rob.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so we've got Kimmo in first, Kimmo Summerlin in first, Eric Veldorf in second, David Jordan in third, Victor in fourth. Welcome back to the series for Daniel R. Wenzin in fifth. Sixth is Peter, series leader, Peter Kermier. Seventh is last week's winner, Toby Bushell. Eighth is Mark Bird. Ninth is Stefan Coppins from Team TFR. 10th is Lasse Björn Hansen. 11th is Christian Stick. 12th is Daniel Kirsten. 13th, Duncan Reed. 14th, Sasha Robe. 15th, Mario Vazic. 16th, William Pioneer. And 18th, making a welcome return, is John Marlier. Guys who didn't complete a qualification lap and thus such start at the back of the grid. Simon D. Roberts, another TFR driver. Morgan Morand, both of which are in the Corvettes, and then bringing up the rear is Remo Piski, who I believe has been quite ill recently, so glad to know you're better.
Okay, and as I said, it's a very, very short pace. I wouldn't call it a pace lap. It's a just drive around the 130R and go through the Casilla Triangle. And the pace car is already in. And David Pettersson will bring the field to the green flag here for TFR's Cup round number 3. And immediately you see Pettersson gets a great lead there going to turn number 1. And this is where you want to be careful. Turn number 1 here is so difficult. You need to brake, let the car slow down a little bit, settle down, and then brake again as you go into 2. Very tricky second corner here. And now up they come through the S's for the first time. Peterson is leading from Carl McGurk in that purple car, number 58. As they go through the S's for the first time, we'll talk you through this first lap. And if there are any incidents, at the moment I don't believe there are any, Rob.
No, looking further down the grid into the 4 GTs as well, no accidents. I think people are taking it fairly careful through the S's. As careful as they can in a race.
Yep, and here they come toward Dengo, number 1 for the first time. Nice little flick to the right, slow it down into second gear for Dengo number 2. Under the bridge is where the track crosses over. And then you'll have a little kink to the right hand side as you come into the hairpin for the first time. Slow it down to 45 miles an hour as you go through the hairpin. Now build up the speed all the way up. Little kinks to the right, you don't need to worry about braking here until you come towards the spoon curve, which is where Peterson will be coming up to momentarily as he brakes, turns left for the first time, clips the curb nicely there, runs it wide to get a nice arc into spoon curve part 2, and now we'll come down this long backstretch towards the magical 130R corner. Not as demanding as it used to be in the old cars of the olden days, but still a very difficult corner. Hold it nice to left, and we do have a wreck momentarily.
I believe that might be on the back stretch.
Yeah, on the back stretch. So just bear with us one moment, and I believe that was I can't see who that was. I think that was William Panier who was involved in that though.
The number 88 car, yeah, he's certainly orphaned at the back of the grid currently. Yes,
and Duncan Reed as well.
And the white car, or Duncan Reed. So that's the point in the track where there is quite a lot of braking. It's quite easy to lock up and just shoot a little bit long. And if you've got anyone else that causes has a little bit of a wobble there, it's quite hard to read and try and avoid them as well. It looks like Duncan's been caught up. He is back in the pits. He's got a bit of a bent rear bumper, and there's a TFR car behind him of Mark Bird, who also has a little bit of damage.
So I'm just going through the field trying to figure out what I could see from that replay. I can't see much at the moment though. We'll see what we can get momentarily.
I'm just wondering if Simon D. Roberts and Morgan made it onto the grid. Just trying to see where they are. Certainly can't see them there, so maybe they haven't started.
Nope, it looks like it's a DNS there for both those two drivers, which will hurt their championship position a little bit. I know Simon is still with his brand new little baby daughter, so hello if you're watching, how are you? Hope the kid's going well, hope the wife's going well.
She's a week older. How do you think about that?
I know. If we do this for a year, she'll be a year old. She'll be watching her first ever SuperCup race as a 1-year-old. Unless it's a birthday party, in which case I'm sure they'll be told to turn the TV off. But I tell you what, Peterson has pulled out already a massive 2.5 second gap. It's Carl McGurk in second. Nico Brandt is currently running third. Kieran Pearce in fourth. Oliver Brandt in fifth. And Farouk Manzar in sixth.
Has run long. He went up inside, or outside, sorry, Farouk and Kieran, and just locked up and shot down the escape road.
Yeah, and that happens quite a lot here. The Castillo Triangle is a very, very tricky corner. In some ways it's lucky because there's two layouts there. They have the one that you run, and there's a secondary layout there, so you can, if you do miss a braking point, you can, you know, slam the brakes and go around the second layout and just hang to the outside of the final corner and slow down so you don't get a penalty and then speed back up. But for Oliver, unfortunately, that's dropped him a few positions at the start of this race.
Speaking about dropping positions, I think Christian Schlick's had a bit of an incident. He's currently limping around. I did think he was going to come into the pits because he was limping around a little bit. He's carried on. Let's have a little look, see what happened to him.
And we're currently looking at the number 78 machine of Kieran Pearce, currently riding in fourth, trying to close down Nico Brandt in the number 24 machine. I'll tell you what, Nico Brandt is such a versatile driver. Everywhere I go, I see his name pop up, and he can drive everything from a Corvette to a HPD to an Indy car to a Formula 1 car to a NASCAR. How this guy ever gets a chance to work or do practice is beyond me.
Kieran Pearce, we're currently on board with him. He's getting very, very quick. I believe Robert Lorry has disconnected. I don't know what the reason behind that is. Maybe he's had an incident.
But looking as they go through this curve, it looks like he's closing a little bit. He's in a good position that if he wants to try and make a charge going into the 130R and down towards Castillo Triangle, he has some opportunity to do so. And Robert Lowry, we believe the reason why he is retired from the race is he hit the wall in turn 9.
There's a lot of people who've been doing that in warm-up and qualification. He certainly hit that quite hard and just decided there and then just to park it.
Call it a day, move on to next week. And you know, if he was running 2.4, these guys, some of these guys are going to be very, very tired. And like the riders we were talking about earlier on today, these Corvettes are a handful to drive, and so are the 4GTs. You know, it's not nice, easy point and squirt cars. You've got to be handling them, wrestling them through the corners, especially the S's, which you can see the cars coming up now. You know, these S's are some of the most beautiful corners in all of motorsport, but at the same time, they are so treacherous. And mess up one, and you're on the back foot, you know, for the next 20-30 seconds.
And then we can add to the equation cars that aren't too different pace and performance-wise. So they're going to be quite difficult for the Corvettes to get past the 4GTs on this circuit, but especially in the S's.
Oh yeah, the difference between this series and what you see often in iRacing in the in the multi-class races is there aren't no HPDs, the Mont Series cars, which means that the cars that you see right now are very, very similar in pace. As you can see, there's only a 5-second gap at the moment between Kimmo Suherman and Terry Dalberg. Kimmo is the first of the 4GT cars, led most of the race last time out at Road America until he was involved in an incident with eventual race winner.
Oh. Sorry to interrupt, Will. Nico Brown has run long into Spoon. He was following Carl McGurk. Kieran Pearce has caught him up and passed him. Nico is undamaged.
Yeah, so as I was saying, there's about a 5-second gap between Kimmo, the first of the GT cars, and Taro, the last of the Corvette cars. So, judging by that, we're on lap 4 already, only about a second and a half slower in some cases.
Yeah, this is going to be an extremely difficult race once they get into traffic. I know I've said that before. I'm going to say an awful lot. This circuit is especially difficult. Maybe into the hairpin, we'll see a bit of passing. Maybe into Spoon, or maybe certainly they'll be lined up in Spoon. But I don't see many places where you can safely pass. No,
too wide as they come down into turn number 1. I believe that is for position. Looking at the wrong way. Oh, sorry, Kieran Pearce is into the wall 78 machine there in turn number 2. Just started saying they were going too wide. I believe that was Kieran Pearce and Farouk Manzar, who was involved in an incident last race. Farouk just clips the curb coming into turn 1, brushes up the racetrack right into Kieran, and after being involved in a wreck early on last race, Farouk's really going to be hanging his head in shame there.
Okay, I think we're going to see a replay for this.
I believe a little bit of netcode was in effect there. I'm not sure how hard Kieran hit the wall. He might be able to keep it going in the straight and narrow. Yeah, he did spin it twice there as he came up through the S's, so it does look like for now Kieran's race is done. It looks like he's going to see if he can limp back. Nope, he's back in pit lane seeing if he can get a tow.
I didn't see a lot of contact there.
There wasn't a lot of contact, but where he hit the wall, obviously he hit the right side of the car with Farouk's left, and then he hit the wall with his left side. But between the two cars, I really do think that was a little bit of netcode. For those of you who are watching who aren't an iRacing regular, obviously all these drivers have come from different parts of the world with different internet connections and with different lags. So iRacing building a feature where, you know, they can kind of predict where the car is going to be throughout the racetrack, and occasionally there's little discrepancies between where that is and what is in reality, and sometimes you get what we call ghost contact or netcode contact, and in my opinion that's pretty much what happened with that incident.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing, but what iRacing does, it does very well, and they are rare to see situations like that. I believe we're looking at Kimmo now, or we were looking at Kimmo, who of course is the leader of the GT2s, and it looks like he's driving off into the sunset, although I said that in the last round, and he had a nasty case of shenanigans, and Toby Bushell eventually called him, and there was contact, and he fell off the circuit, and Toby won.
So in other words, we've got to say this time that Kimmo's driving very slowly and all of the other cars are swamping upon him.
Yeah, I think he'll finish last.
Cool. Meanwhile, David Peterson, is it Peterson or Peterson? It's Peterson, isn't it?
Yeah, Peterson. As
David Peterson. If I say Peterson again, feel free to come over and slap me on Twitter or face to face. But David S. Peterson is leading the Corvette class by 9 seconds now over Karl McGurk. Farouk Manzar is only 3 tenths behind in third place. Then the mother-daughter combination of Nico and Oliver Brandt are in fourth and fifth.
Okay, let's take you through the retirements. Duncan Reed, who in the White Ford GT had a little bit of contact earlier, he's retired. Rob Straymans, who finished very well in the first race, Watkins Glen, he is now retired. He obviously wasn't at the last round. Kieran Peace, through to the damage, has decided to call it a day, and Ramo, who we don't believe managed to get to the grid in the end, he has officially retired.
And what we will do is we'll update you on where these cars are in relation to the championship throughout the race. I mean, for Peterson right now, bouncing back with this huge lead already after his disappointment in Road America involved in that lap 2 incident, which was none of his doing at all. You know, this is the way to bounce back. And we spoke to him last week and he said, look, I just need to go and get my head down, figure out Suzuka and come back there, and look at him, driving away.
And also, I believe that's the first time in qualification he went under 1 minute 55, so 1 minute 54.954 he qualified with, and he was doing, I believe, low fuel runs to try and get down that low.
Yeah, unfortunately I haven't been able to pay as much attention this week, practice sessions as I normally have done because of everything surrounding the World Tour events, but he really has been on it ever since he left Road America. And I'm looking at Farouk Manzar now, trying to find a way to get around Karl McGurk, really hassling him through the S's. But as you know, it's just so difficult to try and make a pass there. They've either really got to slip up, or you've got to be so much faster if you're going to try and find a gap. And even if you do, the track is so narrow there.
Yeah, or you just pressure someone into a mistake. You know, just show yourself in their mirrors a few times, see if they notice. You know, and then you never know what can happen if you're really pressuring someone.
Tell you what though, meanwhile in the GT2 class you have David Jordan really putting that same amount of pressure on Eric Verdorf, while Kimo's managed to gain about a 4-second gap. Yeah, David and Eric are going at it 2 from now. It does seem to be coming out of the S's. Eric's got the advantage, but then all the way through the second section of the track, you know, through the dangers, down towards the hairpin, up towards the spoon curve, David can start reeling him in little bit by little bit. You see, come to the hairpin, David's right on his toes, and get on that acceleration pedal now. As he does, he's able to start lining him up through the second and third sector of this track to try and make a move, possibly down into the Castillo Triangle.
The last one on this is a very important corner. It allows you to a big old run up that hill and then to swing into the Degners. So he may have just took it a little bit differently, just to get a run up.
And obviously for all of you racing purists, obviously there is a corner after the last of the S's and the Dangers, the Dunlop curb. But if you want us, if you want to shout at us again, tweet us hashtag TFR SuperCup, and you can shout at us through that.
Eric currently is in 3rd position in the GT2 Championship, so he'll be looking to do a good result. As we see him make a mistake and get caught up.
You see, this is where now, I don't think David was able to react. He had to check up a little bit himself. But as they come down towards turn number 1, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not David will be brave enough to try and make him move into 2, break at about the same point, so he's not going to have the chance unless he goes really down the inside. Not going to happen this time by.
Yeah, and Victor closed up just a little bit behind David as well. We're going to see a big old battle. Do you think that David's been held up by Eric because Eric's looking in his mirrors a bit too much?
Yes, but at the same point, as I said, David doesn't seem to be as strong in this first section of the racetrack. So it does seem as though, you see, look, the gap's extended to about 4 car lengths through here. So I think that David's losing it all through this part of the section. If he could just nail the S a little bit better, he could be right up on him coming into, exiting Denga 2, underneath the bridge, coming down towards the hairpin, to really try and make a pass. Because he came very close to last lap, and it'll come close again. Look, you see, close it down to about a car length. Just behind him, you see Victor try again to have to move out the way to avoid running into the back. So the famous Trudy train could be starting anytime soon.
Okay, well, the series leader, Peter Keimer, had a bit of a wobble coming out of Degner 2. You saw a lot of tyre smoke. Back end got a little bit loose, and he's dropped off the pack a little bit. John Maloney, he was quite high up. I believe he's had an incident and has retired. I'm just trying to find out who he made contact with.
Meanwhile, looking at Farouk Manzar, the number 46 machine, the orange and black car, as they come through turn. I see a car on the outside of him. I believe that is Nico Brandt. Who went wide in the exit, wide through 1, sliding, somehow managed to save it as they go through, running on that green AstroTurf, Astro pavement all the way through turn 2, loses about half a second in the process, but Farouk Manzar still hassling Carl McGurk in the number 58 machine as they come up the hill, round the final S into the Dunlop curve.
Okay, so I found out the mystery of John Maloney. He literally came through Degner 2, pulled up out under the bridge, and that was his race.
Blind
so
engine?
No contact. He just decided to call it a day.
Oh, it's a shame.
Maybe it's a curse of Daytona.
Yeah. The trucks are calling him. But I'll tell you what, this battle is still going on. And you see Farouk's got a nice little run there. He's going to see if he can go to the outside now, because this will put him down to the inside position. He gets cut off a little bit going towards the spoon curve.
It's all about the run-up.
And you see, if he can try and make it a good... You see, this is where he's losing time. For the second part of spoon curve 2, he didn't seem to be as hard on the power, and this allowed her to get a little bit of an advantage. The gap's going to close down as they come down this backstretch into the 130R. I say braking a little bit, a lot less on the brakes, closing it down now to 2 car lengths as they come down towards the Casilla Triangle. But he brakes so early there, Farouk does.
Yeah, that's surprising. Maybe he doesn't want to... the last time we saw him brake, he lost it at Road America, so maybe he's just taking a little bit easy when he's close. We're looking at as you see, Carl McGurk just lock up temp near Camara corner number 2. We're looking at 2 laps, 1 pit stop, for these guys. So interesting to see halfway through the race them to come in and fuel up.
Won't necessarily be exactly halfway though. We did see last race people filled the tank up a little bit more. Then as Farouk tries to go down the inside there, that would have been an ambitious move. Some people literally use exactly the halfway point. Others like, okay, I'll just go until the fuel runs out, top it up to the top, And you can play a little bit of strategy there, because if you can drive away, then you can see whether or not you can, use that time to your advantage, where the guys who have more fuel need to stop less, but obviously have slightly more worn tyres in the last part.
We can see. I just wonder how close he's going to allow himself to get to Degner 1s and 2s, because that's a ballsy corner.
Oh yeah, definitely. Daniel, and the thing is, those two corners lead himself up completely to this to the hairpin. You know, you need to be able to nail Daniel 1, which is one of the scariest corners there is. You know, literally brake, turn, hit the bump on the inside, brush and move the car up to the outside, almost running the rumble strip, trying to slow it down for Daniel 2. All in a matter of about 3-4 seconds. As Farouk just gets loose there, coming out of the spoon corner, that's going to allow Kirk to drive away there.
And also allows Nico to close dramatically on him. And Nico, I think, is quite aggressive for a daughter.
Oh yeah. And as they come out of the Casio Triangle past the start-finish line out now, Nico Brandt didn't make the move there in the Casio Triangle, but you know what? Nico is a wily old fox of a daughter. I've seen him play the strategy game so many times, waiting for drivers ahead of him to make mistakes. Oh, as Farouk made another mistake, getting loose there in the middle of the S's. So, you know, Nico Brandt is great at applying pressure. He's going to have a look down, sweeps from the inside of that corner. It looks like he's going to try to get down the inside of the Dunlop curve. Doesn't make that happen either. But Nico is, you know, he's aggressive, but he's not always aggressive in the form of he's just going to dive bomb you. He's just aggressive in how his mentality is. He likes pushing drivers into mistakes whilst thinking quite a lot.
Kimmo Sunan, the leader of GT2, has decided he's got bored with fighting a losing battle with having another GT2 catch him up, so he's currently chasing down and dicing with Terry Dalberg, who is the last place driver currently running in the Corvettes. I think we saw this in Road America.
So I know it's off your screen, but Nico Brandt had two wheels almost collecting the cones on the inside of the racetrack as they came up towards Spoon Curve there. But you know what, Kimmo is such a great driver, and it's so unfortunate his race ended the way it did last week at Road America. But and again, it does show that, you know, a fast driver and a GT2 car can be a match to some of those in the GT1s.
Oh, big time, absolutely. Nail on the head, nail on the head. But maybe it's good that he dropped a few points here and there, you know, gives the other a chance to catch up.
And the number 42 machine is closing down the pink car of David Ward as they come into the triangle once again. Yes, Stephen Van Heltingen is doing a really good job there. He's trying his best to get up to David Ward, and again, it does seem as though trimmed out, David Ward is slightly faster, but as they come through the twisty-turny bit, Stephen's able to close right up on him at times.
Got a complete contrast in cars there with Stephen and David. Obviously, one's quite a pink colour, and the other's matte black, best colour in the world. Stephen wasn't at the last race, so he needs all the points he can get, so hopefully he gets a strong finish.
Pink car's not going to give anything away for free, though, I'll tell you that one. And it's what I was talking about. Through the S's, you see the 42 machine just closing up ever so slightly on David Ward in the 24, as we're going to head back over to Nico Brandt in the in the 24 machine. But the 42 does close up quite a lot in the twisty sections, but as soon as you get onto a straightaway, David Ward is great at putting that power down and just like driving off and protecting his position that way.
Yeah, maybe more of a planted setup. I think if things stay near enough, or how they are, I think the Talk Freak Racing guys, currently in fourth position in the GT1 Championship, both of David and Carl, are going to leapfrog dramatically 3 places up to maybe the top. At the moment, the championship, Gary Hinkman and Adam Kell are leading the Constructors' Championship in GT1. Both drivers are not at today's event. Team Pink in second, maybe overachieving because he has one driver, David Ward, he's in second, and of course the Chololo Racing in third of Alexander Martini and Evan Maillard both are not racing today either, so big changes in the Drivers' Championship hopefully.
And Nico Brandt there goes wide in the 130 yards. He really is starting to get annoyed by the look of it. And I'll tell you what, I've driven on the outside line, the 130 yard, on that greeny, astro, pavementy stuff, and it's scary.
Yeah, slippery. Also, maybe hopping the curbs isn't advisable in that corner either, because it can destabilise the car. And it's easily done. It's like the Degner. The first Degner one's quite a brave corner to go in and just sort of straddle the curb, especially in the GT ones.
I'll tell you what though, it does show how difficult it is to pass here. You know, Carl McGurk has been able to fend off Farouk Manzar and Nico Brandt for, you know, the last 5, 6, 7 laps. In what it does look as though Farouk is much faster. As I say that, it did look as though Carl went a bit wide coming up the Dunlop curve. So maybe this time Farouk's able to line him up down to Denga 1. Nico looks as though he's going to say, if you don't get the pass made on him, I'm going to make the pass on you to Farouk right there. But we've got a little bit of a train going on there, and at the same time, I think we still have got that train going on from Whitaker all the way back to and Tony Bushell. No, sorry, it's Eric Veldorf, and there's a little bit of a true train forming all the way back to, yeah, to Peter Kramer.
Peter Kramer, of course, series leader in GT2. David Peterson has started to lap some of the Ford GT cars now, and it's a bit of a face-off between himself and Mario Vlasic to how to let them pass in some of the slow areas. So we're going to see some cracking overtaking moves through the pack when some of the faster GT1 guys catch some of the faster GT2 guys. Just a little shout out as well, Twitter, hashtag TFL SuperCup. People are already starting to tweet and say hi, nice race and all that sort of stuff. So feel free to join in. That's hashtag TFL SuperCup.
And don't forget, if you'd like to complain about our commentary, please remember the fact we've been doing this for 3 hours almost today. So be nice. But it does look as though, really, that Oliver Brandt can't seem to catch Nico. I don't know, is he the mother or is he the daughter?
I think it changes daily, to be honest, Will.
Okay. But Oliver Brandt can't seem to catch Nico that well. But we saw this before, that Oliver just likes to cruise around for a little bit, and then bam, all of a sudden, like, start charging around the racetrack and gain seconds all over the place. Whereas Peterson really is starting to lap these GC2 cars, just seeing him go through Denga 2 now down towards the hairpin. Taking it easy though, what he does say. I mean, he's got a 15-second gap, but it looks as though he's just cruising around, making sure he doesn't put himself into any silly manoeuvres. Some very fast, long corners here, so you don't want to be ramming into the back of a 4GT as one just lets him go there down the inside. Meanwhile, Daniel Wensing in the 4GT2 car, it's just gone wide to it, so just cut over to him going into turn 2. Currently riding 4th overall in class. Doing a very good job. He's still involved in this battle with David Jordan and Eric Verdorf. Eric Verdorf, David Jordan, Daniel Wensing, and running nose to tail. But I believe something might have happened a little bit further back, because Whitaker, Bubniak and Toby Bushnell has dropped back a little bit.
I'll have a little look, see what I can find out. That's another little mystery that we can do. Can't see any damage to Toby's car.
At the moment, we do have 5 cars out of the race. John Maloney, it was your latest retirement. Decided that probably there was some form of game or something on the TV. Or he had an engine trouble in the 07 car. Kieran Pearce is out of the race. We saw him involved in an incident with Farouk Manzir earlier on in the race, going to turn number 1, then hit the wall. Robert Laurie is out, Rob Straitmans is out, and Duncan Reed is also out of the race here.
Well, I can't see anything happening between Vitor and Toby. I think Vitor might have damage on his front bumper though.
And as David Peterson has managed to get through some of this traffic, but the gap between himself and Carl McGurk running in second has closed down to a magical 14 seconds. So 1 second has been taken out of his lead so far, but now he's through this traffic. I tell you what, he's probably going to start driving away into the sunset again. And we can actually say sunset rather than sunrise like we were here.
David Pearson hops deck number 1, comes into the dipped apex, just straddles egg number 2 nicely, just puts his foot down, heading towards the hairpin.
I'll tell you what, that 130R corner there, he's just gone through there. Such a tricky corner. I mean, it's flat out in some cars, like the HPD and the IndyCar, the Formula 1 car. But in these things, you just can't take it flat out. You know, you try to, and understeer, the car just wants to spin around on you eventually. And as he completes lap number 15, we're about half an hour into this race now. So as Peterson comes into turn 2 once again, the gap stabilised now a little bit between him and Kirk in second position. He's still got Farouk Manzar crawling all over the back of Kurt McGurk in third position in the number 46 machine. Nico Brandt is still right there as well, looking possibly for an opportunity. Arno Brandt is closed up onto Nico by about half a second in the last couple of laps, so he is starting to reel him in. And in sixth position in the GT1 class, you have Ian Rogers. David Ward, the pink car, is in seventh, number 69. Stephen Van Helsingen is in eighth. Christian Nilsson, ninth. Running out your top 10 is Terry Dalberg.
There are really battles all over the place. David Jordan and Daniel Wenzin are fighting for fourth position. They were just under a second apart from each other.
I'll tell you what, as they come across traffic now, Farouk wants to try and make a move. He could try and use the dummy of the traffic to see if he can get around. But Nico's looking very racy behind at the same time.
Yeah, just look at the condition. That's really, really hard to get past.
And you can see the Corvette's going all the way down on the inside now. This is the issue for the GT. You let one pass. He's gone wide there, the GT car. You let one pass, and Mark Bird now back onto the grass, trying to keep it steady. Just manages to do so to come out of Spoon Curve 2. But if you're trying to let one of the Corvettes pass, immediately you hung out on the outside, and you're just left, with nowhere to go in some cases.
At least in Spoon you can maybe run off a little. It's the fact it does tighten, so it's quite hard to pull yourself back on track. But some of the other corners are a little bit less forgiving, especially Degnar, especially coming out under that bridge out of Degnar too as well.
It does look like Ian Rogers is trying to make a bit of a charge on Oliver Brandt. Obviously, Oliver is in fifth position, number 91 machine. Ian Rogers in sixth in the number 29. And the gap stabilising at about 1.5 seconds. As Oliver Brandt has now caught his daughter of Nico. And it does look as though this Trudy train really is getting bigger because Ian Rogers is closing right down on them.
This is fantastic. It's just like a terrible snake going through those S's, isn't it?
He's got a Trudy racing.
They don't want to get too far behind him just in case something happens. But they just maybe dip out to one side.
It really does look as though Jarno Trulli's racing again at the front of this field.
Is that too soon? As the Ford GT moves to one side, lets them all through.
Make sure you...
Oh!
Down the inside, is that the...
Spinner.
Kirk McGinnick is out, and there's another car there spinning as well. That's Sasha Rabe in the Ford GT. Keep it steady. Let the other cars come by. Now try and spin it around.
That was sensible for him not to let any sort of motions take over and just stick it in first gear and blip the throttle, Carl got out of that without damage as well. That was good for him. But also a terrible mistake to make. That was just under braking. Too many cars going into that hairpin under braking. If you go into the centre, you've got two, especially if you're a back marker as well, you're like a GT2, you're really leaving the Corvette in a bit of a no man's land in which way to go, under or over.
And Kirk lost, Neil Heckin, the number 41 machine, has a little bit of right spoiler damage. I can see looking on the monitor as we speak. This looks like it's got tweaked a little bit. It doesn't look like anything else is too bad on his car. But going back to Carl, it does look like he lost himself about 3 or 4 seconds involved in that incident.
I'm sure through this traffic he'll build it back up again, I think.
Yeah, he lost 2 seconds to that pack, to the back of that pack. About 4 seconds overall to P2. But now Farouk Manzar is clear. I wouldn't be surprised to see him try and drive away from Nico Brandt a little bit.
Nico Brandt's in the action again, I believe. Whoa!
Oh!
Damage.
It almost collects his mother, daughter, brother, sister, whoever you want to call it.
That's the pocket money this week's scuffing.
Yeah. Just see coming into the S there, almost collect each other. It looked like Oliver was ready to take his optimal line into the corner and Nico was just there. Like saying, nope, no thank you.
Well, in my ears I heard damage. I swear I heard a little knock.
Oh, Oliver getting a little bit of tyre smoke as they come through Danger number 2 there. So to reset your top 5 after that incident, Peterson is now leading by 25 seconds from Farouk Manzar, who's sitting in second in the number 46 machine. In third place, Oliver Brandt now is about 1.5 seconds behind Farouk Manzar after the incidences with him and Nico early on this lap. Ian Rogers is running in 4th. Nico Brandt has now been shuffled back to 5th position with Carl McGurk starting to close Nico Brandt back down in 6th. And David Ward can see this battle, but don't know if he can get close to them enough just yet. Currently riding in 7th, and Stephen Van Hemsingen is in 8th position, 32 seconds off the leader.
And in the GT2 class, currently Kimmo is out front, Eric Veldorf in second, David Jordan third, Daniel Artwins in 4th, Peter Kermeister series leader in 5th, and Peter Budnik in 6th. 7th is Toby Bushell, 8th is Daniel Kirsten, 9th is John Malia, 10th is Stefan Coppens, 11th is Lasse Brun Hansen, 12th is Christian Snick, in 13th position Sasha, 14th is Mario Vlasnik, in 15th William Pioneer, and 16th Mark Bird. And currently the only retiree it looks like in GT2 is Duncan Reed.
And I tell you what, if we carry on much like this, it'll be a case of how many people is David Peterson going to lap this race, unless they give him the curse of the commentator.
Well, he's had the curse of the commentator before, to be honest, and Farouk is now in second, or has been in second for a while, so you never know, but Farouk can chase him down.
Yep.
And how's the train doing third position? Big spin for Nico. Well spin, bit of it, you lit the rear tyres up coming through Degner 2, saved it, well saved.
Yeah, Oliver Brandt is really good. That's right, Nico is driving the wheels off this car, and he almost spins it again. I think he thinks he's in a drift car going through some of these corners right now.
Well, it's certainly a good car to do drifting in the home of drifting, so to speak, or the nation of drifting.
Coming down towards the spin curve once again, and it does look as though they spread out a little bit. Farouk Manzar has about a 2.5, 3 second gap between himself and Oliver Brandt, and Ian Rogers is a good 8-9 car lengths behind Oliver, and Nico's a further 8-9 car lengths behind Ian.
Yeah, that's the green TFR vehicle at the moment, just coming through on 30R. Or not, I don't think so. I got lost. Oh no, it was, that's cool.
I'll tell you what.
Difficult corner to come out when you're really in a hurry, isn't it? That little chicane.
Yeah. I'd say the last couple of corners of the lap and the first couple of corners of this racetrack is so difficult, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And coming down turn 1.
There's a corner that you shouldn't really spin on. That's always the hairpin. There's so many people you see in the iRacing Championships come out the hairpin, put the beans down too early, and end up facing the wall. And it's one of those corners as well that if you do get it wrong, you get damaged no matter what. And the S's as well. I don't think we've seen anyone properly come off at the S's yet, have we?
Not properly, no. I'll tell you what though, the Casino Triangle is such a tricky little difficult corner because you've got so much speed coming into it, and the track just dips away ever so slightly as you come into the corner. You just have to let the car settle from the 130R, let it settle, then apply the brake, then let the car travel over the bumps, and then coming out of it, you've got to be so careful putting the power back on that the car just doesn't want to spear right as you put the power down. Some very difficult sections on this racetrack, which combined does make it one of the true drivers' tracks. And you can see, you know, it doesn't matter how good or bad your setup is here. If you've got the skill, you can really be riding with the best around here.
Yeah, it's a fantastic technical circuit. We can see now from second place to sixth place, all stretched out by a couple of seconds now. So I think that's because there's not a lot. Yeah, I think that's there's also not a lot of traffic around as well to bunch them up again. So.
Nico's definitely closed down Ian Rogers, and he's at the same time. You should just see that. I think that was not even Oliver Bryant. That was who's that car there? You see, Nico's closed right back down, but Neil Heckins in the number 41, he's getting lapped, and he got very sideways coming to the 130R. He's going to pull down to the inside. David Ward is into pit lane in the number 69 machine.
That's the first, isn't it? The first intentional pit stop.
Yeah. That is that can be classified as a scheduled pit stop.
Load it nice along now and see where he comes out.
Yeah. He's gonna put it into his box. Slows it down. Nice into his pit stop there. So he's gonna take 4 tyres, fill up his fuel with some form of race gas. I don't know which race gas they use virtually. And then he will be on his way. Meanwhile, David Peterson is now 24.7 seconds ahead of Farouk Manzar. The gap, yeah, tell you what, the gap is closing between those three. Oliver Bryant has gained about a second on Farouk in the last 3 or 4 laps. Ian Rogers has gained about half a second on Oliver Bryant. Nico Brandt has gained about half a second on Ian Rogers. So, you know what, we could be back in that train situation again in about 3-4 laps time if we're not careful.
Good, we like the train. Trains are always welcome at Suzuka.
Yeah, and in the GC2 class, it does look as though Eric Reardorf has managed to shake off David Jordan for the time being. Gap's up now to about 2 seconds. Daniel Arndt-Vensing is closing up on him though. He's only about half a second to a second behind. But then you've got a really good battle shaping up. Sorry, I was going to say you'd have a really good battle shaping up, but Toby Bushnell is also into pit lane in the red TFR machine, just as he's closing up on Peter Kehrmeister. So this could be a little bit of strategy here, trying to get himself out in clean air.
Well, I think that both him and Peter need it because they are quite high up in the championship and they are quite low down currently in the GT2 class. So we need to see if they improve themselves after the pit stop. And I think Toby might have a little bit of damage from earlier as well.
But, I mean, this is one of the great things about endurance racing. Not only is it being able to have mind over matter for, you know, a good hour and a half, obviously, and also stringing together qualifying laps and so on, but being able to adapt to the range of circuits you have on offer. I mean, already we've had nice, fast, sweeping corners at Watkins Glen, to very long straights and huge braking zones at Road America, to Suzuka, which is a little bit of both. And, you know, I believe we're going to Mid-Ohio next week, so that's a completely different challenge again. We've got Laguna Seca, tracks like Sebring. Everything's so different with so many different variables, be it gradient or cornering speeds or how you can run the track, whether you can use the curbs. And it really does show who's the most rounded driver, Rob. And meanwhile, out front, the gap is closing again to Peterson. I don't know whether Peterson's just in cruise control mode at the moment, but the gap seems to stretch out to 25 seconds, then come back to 22 seconds, then back up to 24. And it looks as though Farouk Manzar is really trying to put away from Oliver Brandt, who keeps on getting within about a second and a half. And then Farouk Manzar manages to put in a really good lap to increase that gap just a tiny little bit there. And they have managed to break away from Ian Rogers and Nico Brandt, who's currently fighting for position. Ian Rogers in the number 29 machine, and Nico Brandt, who actually managed to get past them into, as they're coming into Casino Triangle now. They're coming. Nico Brandt's coming up to lap Toby Bushnell as they come out of the triangle. Toby just moves straight down to the inside. He's coming back into pit lane, I believe. No, sorry, that's Stephen. Sorry, I take that back. That was Stephen Coppins. Very similar to paint schemes there.
Or Stephen Coppins. But you, the first bit of abuse on Twitter for today. Apparently, Carl McGurk, someone called him Kirk earlier, so apologies for that. And there's a chap called The Wizard that did bring up to our attention, so doubly sorry.
It was his fault, honest.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, he's the one who kept on saying Road Atlanta, so...
Who's that?
No, it's you last week. You kept on saying Road Atlanta, so I'm just going to blame you. I'll be the one wearing the shiny halo on my head. Unless it was me, in which case I apologise. I'll chuck this sexy car down or something. But I'll tell you what, this battle, Nico Brandt and Ian Rogers, has been exciting. It's been this way. Nico Brandt's managed to get past. I think that's the first time he's really been able to make a passing opportunity stick at this racetrack today. But at the same time, Ian Rogers isn't going to let him go that easily. He's still right behind him to come into the hairpin. Ian's really good getting onto the power in that green Top Freak racing machine. Nico Brandt ahead of him, the number 24, doing a really good job. And as I said earlier, such a versatile driver. I raced with him quite a lot last year. He was the overall series champion in my IndyCar series. As Nico just lights up the tyres a little bit. But Nico Brandt, wherever he goes, he seems to be thereabouts in the top, third quarter of the field. And I'd like to know where he gets his talent from at times.
Well, iRacing certainly is a magnet to talent, some proper talented drivers. And it's good to see him. It's good to see people of multiple disciplines are able to do well. They're both to sit in heavy GT cars as well as open-wheeled monsters.
And number 3 machine of Daniel Arndt Wensing is closing down on David Jordan in the number 85 machine as we speak, coming through the S's up towards Denga number 1. It does seem as though Daniel's not as strong as they come through the Dunlop curve, and he runs a little bit wide on Denga onto that very ruggedy curb. So that's going to put his momentum back for the next couple of corners unless he gets a very good run coming out of the hairpin, coming up very, very slidey, and he almost spins it there. The number 3 machine manages to keep it going. But he's lost himself about a second now as we are halfway through this race here at Suzuka. Hello, I'm Will Vincent. That over there is Rob Sutherland, and we're halfway through round 3 of the Talk Freak Racing Super Cup Spring 2012 here at the Suzuka circuit. This 90-minute race, we've had 45 minutes, so surprisingly enough, we've got 40 minutes left to go. And Rob, it's been a really good race so far.
That's been fantastic, especially the battles through the field. Not had as much drama as we did last week with regards to contact and stuff like that, but certainly lapping has been very fun to watch. We're going to do a quick rundown now through the current standings. In first place, David S. Peterson. Second is Farouk Manzas. Third is Oliver Brandt. Fourth is his daughter Nico Brandt. Fifth is Ian Rogers. Sixth is Carl McGurk. Seventh is Christian Nurselain. In eighth, Stephen Val Hesdig. In ninth is Team Pink car of David Ward. 10th is Tero Dahlberg. 11th is Neil Heckings. 12th is John Maloney. And in 12th position in GT1 cars, the retirees in GT1 cars, John Maloney, Kieran Pearce, Robert Lorry and Rob Sturmond. Going into GT2, we're looking at Kimo out in the lead by a good old about 7 or 8 seconds. Second place is Eric Vedoff. In third is David Jordan. 8th is Daniel Arndt Wensing, who I believe we're viewing now. We were. In 5th position is Vita Bubnek. 6th is Peter Kermer, the series leader. 7th is Daniel Kirsten. 8th is Lassie Brun Hansen. 9th is Toby Bushnell. 10th John Mellier. 11th Stefan Coppins. 12th is Marian Vlasnic. 13th is Christian Stick. In 14th Sasha Robbie. In 15th Mark Bird. 16th William Piner. And in 17th place in GT2 a retiree Duncan Reed.
Nico Brandt is into pit lane, hits his marks a little bit off there. He had to reverse a little bit into pit lane, so he's one of the first cars to really be pitting in this pit sequence. We saw the pink car coming earlier on, and I tell you what, I've really got to be careful when I keep on calling Nico Oliver's daughter, because I've got to deal with him for next part of this year, and he'll be not so happy with me. Peterson has pitted as well outside of our screen, so he's relinquished the lead momentarily to Farouk Manzari even, so expect this entire pit sequence to be completed in the next 4 or 5 laps, I think.
Currently, the leaders have laps all the way up to 16th position, and they're chasing down Daniel Kirsten.
And you see Farouk Mandir now in the number 46 machine coming through the second part of the spoon curve. Want to get the power down nice and early now, coming down the back stretch down towards the 130R. He's got Oliver Brand close back up to 1.1 seconds behind. This is the point last race where Oliver started to make his charge. He somehow managed to save a little bit of fuel and then charge through this pit sequence so that he can gain a couple of positions. And we'll be looking to see if Farouk comes in this time by. As they come through the casino triangle, darts it to the right and stays out.
Kimmo is in the pits, GT2 leader, isn't it? And he's already dropped. He's such a big lead, he hasn't dropped down that far. He has just been lapped by the leader, Farouk.
And it does look as though everyone is staying out on the racetrack this time by. But Oliver, again, Oliver gains about, half a second here, a second there, and then drops back a couple of attempts. There's not really that much traffic around, so I don't know what it is, whether, Oliver's just sizing up his opposition, whether he's making slight little mistakes. But that Vitaphone number 91 machine really does start to come alive at this point in the race. Keep a very close eye on him. We saw what happened at Road America, where he just was content to sit in second position for so long, and then boom, all of a sudden decided to put his right foot on the gas pedal a little bit more.
Yeah, he was an absolute machine at Road America. He just came out from, I say nowhere, but it was quite obviously from a really good position 3/4 through the race. He was just an absolute animal.
And we're riding on board with him now, and this is, in my opinion, one of the trickiest parts of the circuit, because you're less likely to really spin or do anything here, but to keep the speed through this section of the racetrack. As you come into the corner, turn it hard to the left, then you've got to try and ride that curve and then come down to the second part. You need to get that wide apex in order to do so, but then you've got to make sure that you don't turn the car too much and you can bring it back out at the end of the corner. And it does look like he's gaining a little bit on this lap. So you run down the long back stretch, down through the 130R, a little bit of brake, turns it in nicely, uses the runoff, not this time, as they come down to the casino triangle again. This is always a difficult corner to get through. I hate this corner so much when I race here. I always seem to be tiptoeing around it.
Quite aggressive as well on the initial turning. Broke just before the 100 metre mark. That's one of the corners where you really want to just wait for the last possible moment. And once again, going to turn number 1, 50 metre wide on the left, tuck himself in, sliding round the second part of the first corner, then up behind that Ford GT.
Who lets him by immediately.
That was very, very nice for him to do that.
But at the same time, Farouk is pulling away still. 4 tenths per second he pulled away in that last lap. But Farouk and Oliver have broken Ian Rogers by 8 seconds now. There's a gap between Farouk and Ian Rogers, sat in third position momentarily in the number 29 machine. Ian has come down pit lane. He's in pits at the moment. And there's also another car down pit lane as well. That is Carmen Girk. You just see as Ian is waiting to get the last bit of his fuel. He's coming out in pit lane. We'll see where he feeds in. 37 mile an hour speed limit. And you've got to be very careful when you merge back onto this track, because it's so late where the pit release line is, and you've got to see whether you can swerve it out, swerve it back in, or just try and take a nice tight apex into turn 1.
And Nico pretty much was on the edge on that first corner. There was a few people complaining in qualification about that pit exit, because it did cause a few incidents, I believe, in the GT2 racing.
And the thing is, because that blend line is so late that it almost, as soon as you get past the blend line, you're almost in the apex of the corner. So you've got to try and take such a tight entry to get in there that you're so slowing off the pace. If there's a car coming up behind you, it could be catastrophic if you're not paying full attention.
Yeah, and if you're not paying full attention when you exit the pits, there's a problem in my opinion with you. But we're looking at the leader now, Farouk.
Gap is up to one point down to 1.7. So again, it's this trading off between Oliver and Farouk. It's trading laps. Who's going to be fastest this time by? Oliver, I'll go fast this time. Then Farouk's like, no, you won't. I'll go fast this time by. And that bright electric orange and black scheme, you know, you can really tell who's coming up behind you if you're coming up to get lapped or someone's fighting you for position. You know who it is with Farouk. And I'm surprised he hasn't come down pit lane already. I mean, it's been a good, 7 laps now since Peterson's pitted. So I would really be expecting him to come down the next couple of laps, himself, Oliver, especially. They're the only 2 cars who, in the top few positions, he haven't pitted. Peterson has pitted, sitting in 3rd, 40 seconds off the race lead. I'd expect him to re-inherit the lead of this race soon. But saying that, Carl McGurk and Nico Brandt have done a pretty good job of closing back up. Overall, Nico is kind of closed the gap by about 3 seconds over that pit sequence. So it'll be interesting to see how it'll be when Farouk and Oliver make their pit stops themselves.
We're just looking at laps. Our tame finish race directors told us that the Peterson's fastest lap is 1.3 seconds faster than anyone else, so he is absolutely on it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you what, if you can get dialed in at this track, you're almost unstoppable. If you can manage to, you know, keep your flow through the yeses and hit your braking points into the dangers, the spoon curves, the casino triangle, there's very, very few drivers who can, you know, match you if you can nail the entire lap. I've seen so many times drivers can do 1 sector or 2 sectors really well, but then slightly off in the 3rd. And in some cases, that's not necessarily driving style, but having to adapt your setup to so many variables. You just say, okay, I'm not going to worry about this section, I'll just drive through it, but I want my car to be perfect here.
Yeah, it needs a good balance. I've got word from John Maloney.
He has word from John Maloney and he disappears. And he comes back. What is the word from John Maloney?
He had contact in the first lap, obviously missed, but there was quite a lot going on, and he just said the car wasn't handling as he expected, so he just decided to park it up. That's another mystery solved, courtesy of GlacierTV.com.
Woo! And I would ask him how the car is handling, but ever since watching an interview yesterday, apparently we're not allowed to say anything that involves handling like a dump truck, because crew chiefs don't know what handling like a dump truck means. But again, Nico Brandt has lost a 10th of a second this lap. If Farouk doesn't come into pit this lap, I guarantee Oliver Brandt's going to be a 10th faster.
I'm just wondering if there's a crew chiefs out there that got construction experience. I'm going to go on LinkedIn right now.
I tell you what, though, Peterson's lost about 3 or 4 seconds in the last couple of laps. So whether Peterson was short filling to get himself into clean air and hoping that it would all come back to him later on in the race, but his pace isn't as strong, I don't think, as it was earlier on in this race. I'll quickly have a look to see what his lap times are.
You're absolutely right. Okay, let's say 2:16, 2:36, 2:36 must have been his pit time, 1:56, 1:58, then a 2:01 and a 2 minutes 0.9. So I think he certainly went through some 4 GTs, but that's not really the pace he was setting a while back when he hit his 1:56.7.
Yeah, definitely. Meanwhile, in the GT2s, Eric Veldorf is still coming under attack from David Arndt Wensing. Eric Veldorf in the number 94 machine with that distinctive go faster drive on the left-hand side of his car, coming down the long backstretch past the East Pulse pit entrance and exit. Daniel's really been putting the pressure on these last couple of laps, but not quite. Oh, as he gets very loose there in the 130R, he's going to have to take the grass. Just misses.
Slow that car down.
Yeah.
Your curse, mate, your commentator curse is absolutely on form today.
All over the place there, just through that 130R. That was tremendous save. It just looked like he caught the white line as he went through the 130R. And Yeah, he did just catch the white line, went a little bit wide, and car just flicked left, right, over the grass, missed the wall by inches, and then obviously because of that, he had nowhere to brake. If I was him, I would have actually have taken the full escape road for the chicane. Would have saved him about half a second, but that was a close call.
He's come back in. We are now an hour, 1 minute in, and that's so far the save of the day.
I'd give him that. That definitely was the save of the day.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that I've not seen Daniel race, so I saw him in the first race, but he didn't appear at the last race. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he copes and how fast his pace is, and what a save.
Let's forget that none of these drivers in this series are slouched by any means. Not only is it top quality racing, it's very, very fast racing. These drivers put it all into this weekly series, and we see Farouk Manzir coming down pit lane now, the leader into pit lane. Let's see if Oliver Brandt stays out or comes down at the same time. Oliver's also in, so David Peterson should inherit the lead of this race as these two drivers down to 37 miles an hour in the shadows.
It's just coming around spoon 2 now.
I tell you what, this pit entry, stopping in the pit box because of the shadows, is actually more difficult than you think. It does look as though both of them managed to stop pretty much okay.
Okay, so David Peterson has now taken 130 yards, just come up to the casino complex. He brakes, he misses the first apex slightly, but he's just tucking it around the corner, start finish straight.
And the two cars are still sat in pit lane, still there. Oliver Brandt has exited pit lane. And where's David Peterson?
And out comes Farouk as well. It looks like Oliver's now grabbed second and Farouk is in third. David Peterson has retaken the lead.
Yep, not by much though, I tell you that.
No.
Oliver can see David Peterson. He's literally just a corner ahead as they go through the S's. So, again, will Oliver now use fresher tyres and the same fuel load to try and hunt down Peterson, who dominated so much at the start of this race?
Well, I think it's Oliver showing up again to be the complete dark horse. You know, just a really, really steady, fast pace, really consistent pace. And although you say that Oliver's capitalised, David did throw a few laps away in traffic.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm really interested to know whether David has damage to his race car at all, because he's definitely way off the pace compared to what he was early on in this race.
Well, at 157.4, maybe he's just battling out. Maybe he just doesn't like a higher fuel load.
Possibly. Obviously, at the start of this race, he was flying on what's probably half a tank of fuel, and it does seem like he did the race in reverse. He pitted very early. He was one of the first drivers to pit. Oliver just gets a little bit wide in spoon number 1 there. It almost seems as though he did the strategy in reverse, knowing that if he was to drive away and then pit, he might end up coming out in front into clean air. That would be the case of the other drivers that have to charge to try and chase him down. And by that point, if he's managed to save his tyres with a higher fuel load, maybe he could see now how much he has to drive off. But I tell you what, Oliver's definitely gaining.
Yeah, and we're about to see a bit of a spectacle in a minute as David S. Peterson's TFR car is about to catch the leader of the GT2s, Kimmo Sunonen, in his Team Aon Ford GT.
And I tell you what, David isn't going to want to be held up behind Kimmo for too long. He will probably catch him either at the end of the S's or going into the Dengers. You see what the closing rate is of the Corvette through the tight and twisty bits. He's caught up over a second through the S's alone, and it just shows how much more grip the Corvette has through the tight and twisty corners compared to the Ford GT. And as I was saying, he'll probably catch him into the Dengers. As they break into the Dengers, he's not going to try and dive bomb him here. Goes down to the inside. Yeah, we'll just let him by. Coming into the hairpin, Kimmo should try and move to the right-hand side. No, Peterson goes to the right himself. Takes an outside line. Almost squashes Kimmo in a little bit into the right-handed kink. And he's all right.
So that's the fast GT1 taking the fast GT2. Oliver Brandt is now up behind Kimmo. See if there's Although Oliver's back a little bit now, so it'll be interesting to see what point he catch Kimmo, probably on the straight before 130R.
Yeah, this could help Oliver. He catches him at exactly the right place, and it doesn't look like he will. He might get held up a little bit in spoon 2 as Oliver comes out of 2. He wants to get right into the draft. As you see, he does. If I was Oliver, I would have wanted Kimmo to have been full throttle a little bit longer.
Yeah, did you see Kimmo light the rears coming out of spoon 2 though?
Yeah. If I would have much rather, if I was Oliver, to be able to keep away. He clips the inside curve of the 130R coming down towards the Casino Triangle once again on lap 32 here of this 1 hour 30-minute race. Meanwhile, the number 58 machine.
Carl spins going into spoon, narrowly avoids the wall. He was chasing down Team Pink, the pink car of David Ward. That's Carl McGurk. I think he's
Just catches the white line. That shows how slippery the white lines are here. Literally, it didn't even have any more than an inch or... Yeah, he had a tyre on the white line just as he braked, spun the car around immediately there. And all his hard work he's been doing to try and catch the pink car, completely gone down the toilet for now, and he's going to have to try and do that all over again, but the gap's now up to about 7 seconds.
He's just about to catch a fight. Full position between Daniel Kirsten and Toby Bushell. That's the 17th and 18th position of the race, and the 6th and 7th position in the GT2 class.
Yeah, Bushell really will want to keep as many points as he can. Doesn't look like he's as strong here as he was at Road America, as we talked about earlier. But again, Bushell looks like he's very good on the power here. It's just these tight and twisty bits, like the S's they're coming up to now, that he's a little bit weaker. Daniel's very early on the brakes here, whether he's using that to his advantage to see if he can close, and he definitely is. The gap's disappeared from about 7 car lengths down to 2 car lengths. It's a little bit looser in the last bit of the S's up into the Dunlop curve. I'll tell you what, I think that they're using 2 completely different driving styles there, because I didn't see... as the purple car, the 58 comes around, forces Daniel to go a little bit wide. It did seem as though, however, Toby wasn't braking as much into the corners. He was just lifting off, and that could have been his undoing a little bit. It seems as though braking into those corners in these 4 GTs can be the faster way to go around here.
I also wondered as well if Daniel's focus shifted from Toby in front of him to how he was going to let Carl behind him through without affecting his chase down to Toby.
Oh yeah.
You see Carl diving around Toby into the inside of spoon. And it was interesting, the transitions that the S's give you between the left and right corners. You know, do you do them with brakes or do you do them with just the throttle? It also depends what kind of setup you have as well. Not in your car and your wheel and pedals and gear stick and stuff.
Oh yeah, and you know, some drivers prefer to be able to brake and stamp on the power. Some other drivers like to feather the throttle through the corners if they think they've got very good throttle control. And it's so interesting to see how so many different driving styles together manage to create 2 different people driving completely differently but doing similar lap times. I know our broadcaster Yoni has been racing the 4GTs here a little bit this week. As Oliver Brandt is catching David Peterson quite a lot there, as I believe Peterson got held up by the 4GT, which gets out of the way for Oliver. It seems as though once they get passed by the leader, they realise, oh, dang it, I've got to get out of the way people once in a while. And Oliver probably managed to gain about half a second there.
And I think it's the second time we've seen Christian Stick, who's just run wide going into spoon 1, sorry. He's not on the grass, he's on the tarmac runoff. I think he's got back on the circuit correctly. Yeah, but he seems alright.
But as we were saying, different driving styles for the 4GTs, and our little broadcaster Yoni here, you drive the 4GTs quite a lot, especially at this track, and explain the differences in driving styles and how they kind of work together.
Well, the 4GT has a tendency to be very, very loose, and it doesn't matter what corner you're in on this track. The exits are just so tricky. I mean, I have a personal preference of using hard on the brakes. Just if the car starts to push in the exit, just give it a slight bit of throttle to get the car to turn in better. Slightly counter steer to get the car to straighten out. Just open up the throttle again. So a little bit of throttle brake combination that I prefer to use. Whereas I've had several occasions this week where in 2 of the Degner turns, I almost rammed a couple of GT cars while lapping them or while fighting them, because they have the tendency of first some corners they seem to, as you said, just cruise around the corner without going too heavily on the brakes. But then on the next corner, when I assume that they're going to do the same thing, they just go very hard on the brakes. So it may be also up to Suzuka having corners where you just cannot get your things straightened out. I mean, you cannot decide which one is better, or it depends on the situation. It depends on the lines you take. For example, the hairpin we see in the picture right here, and with David Peterson going through it with the Corvettes. In the Ford GTs, it tends to push quite a bit going to the hairpin, so your line is not as optimal as it could be going through there. So especially when dealing with cars in a normal series like HPD, which is way faster in turns on several corners, they take flat out, whereas you hit the brakes. It's an interesting spectacle around Suzuka. I personally hate that spectacle, but it still is.
And as you see there, Neil Heckins just got completely onto the grass to let Peterson and Oliver Brandt by. And you raised a very good point there about the different types of corners here. And I think there's 6 very unique zones at Suzuka. Turn 1, Turn 2, you know, very, very difficult set of corners to begin a lap. Then you've got the S's, then the 2 Dengers, then the hairpin, the spoon curve, and then finally the casino triangle. And then trying to find a rhythm, lap after lap after lap, trying to piece together those 6 separate types of corners, which are so different but require so many different unique types of driving, is, I think, what makes the challenge of Suzuka so intense. I think you could take little bits of the track and put it elsewhere and it wouldn't be as difficult, but because of the type of track it is, that's what makes it as challenging.
Yeah, this track has almost, like, I should say, unique combination of turns. I mean, making a solid hot lap around here is, of all the tracks of iRacing possesses right now, this is the most tricky corner. Personally, the most tricky track I've seen to try and nail a hot lap, especially with if you manage to get like a proper run through the SS, which with these cars, in both classes, it's tricky as hell, because the car oversteers so much, since you have to keep your car as close to the inside edges, inside curbs as possible. And if you just manage to nail that, then you have like a 5 seconds of euphoria for that, and all of a sudden you tend to lose 0.3 of a second in going through 2 Degners. Or if you manage to nail those, then you have the spoon curve, which is the
just as you mentioned, it gets a bit wide there.
Yeah, it's an interesting corner, because unlike the TV camera, it doesn't show it that well, but it's actually off-camber corner, so it tends to give you like, all of a sudden your car pushes, you try to go on the throttle, hit the brake slide, then all of a sudden you just lose the track from underneath you, and the car just dives in and starts oversteering in the exit. So it doesn't have to be a major mistake in order to lose 4/10 in that one straightaway, which leads you to 130R. If you just fail the spoon curve enough, it will punish you, because the next straight is so long and fast.
Thanks for that, Yanni. And as you see, the gap's increased. Oliver lost 1.2 seconds there. He's obviously charging hard. As he goes wide again into turn 1, man, just keeps it down a little bit into turn 2. Doesn't lose too much time there. Manages to use his curb on the exit a little bit to balance the car back out. But it's interesting to hear how, you know, some people think that this is the most difficult track. And it always is, people say that Spa's the most difficult track, but I think because this track's a lot newer, so many people's not had the opportunity to drive it as often, and the fact that, you know, it's a lot shorter distance, you can't think as much, you know, ahead as you can at Spa with the very long straightaways. I think that's what makes it the challenge as well. As you see, Oliver Brandt really overdriving his car. These two, Peterson and Oliver Brandt, have broken away from Fruit Manzir, who is sitting in 3rd in the number 46 machine. Oliver Brandt in the number 91 Vitaphone car, really trying to hunt down Peterson in the number 16 TFR machine. And I tell you what, though, these two have pulled away so much over these open sort of pit stops. Oliver and Farouk came in pretty much together, and you can see how Oliver, again, drives away by 8-9 seconds without us even realising.
Well, let me tell you, I think Oliver's pushing so hard. David Peterson has just put in a 156.4.
So he's back on the pace now. And
he's back on the pace.
Now the fuel's burnt off a little bit. That setup might be just in that sweet spot where you can drive away again.
Yeah, maybe he's just a little bit settled in where he is in the race and what he needs to do. This circuit's 3.6 miles, and from what I can see and from what I know when having driven on there, it's pretty much just a test circuit bundled in the 3.6 miles.
Yeah.
Every type of corner you got. Who needs to go to the Nürburgring and race around all those Porsches?
I just need to mention that speaking of Peterson's last lap, 156.4. Not only did he escape Oliver Brandt by 1.2 seconds, his lap was 0.6 of a second faster than Oliver Brandt's fastest lap of the race, and that lap was still half a second away from his personal fastest lap. So Peterson is really like almost in a different car class in here.
And he's just pulled out a 156.9 as well. So the question has been answered. Is Oliver going to catch Davison? I don't think so. Not without Davison making a significant mistake.
And Oliver has caught the GT2 car in a little bit of a difficult position, just managed to slide down the inside there, as Oliver just brushed up on the track just by a foot or so, but that could have made a difference there. If he was another foot up the racetrack, those two could have collected. But, you know, this has been a bit of a game of cat and mouse, but now it looks as though Pitten's like, yeah, I'm just going to drive away now. What are you going to do about me?
Yeah, David Peterson into Degnum 1 gave it what we call down McDonald's car park, has given it large around the corner, just lit up the rears.
It really does feel like a McDonald's car park, actually, when you put it into that analogy. Meanwhile, the number 3 machine of Daniel Arndt Wenzing is closing up behind Eric Verdorf, fighting for second in class of the GT2s. Kimmo Silverman has, like he did at Road America before he was involved in his accident with Toby Bushnell, driven away by such a huge distance. I mean, Kimmo is coming into the spoon corner as we speak. Meanwhile, Eric is just braking for the hairpin. So that shows you what the gap is on track.
And you know what? 1 hour, 18 minutes past. That's just shot by compared to the 2.4 Daytona we just did earlier. And it's been cracking racing. Do you want a retirement update?
Go on.
Good. Right. Okay. So we know that David Jordan has retired. Mark Berder's also retired. Kieran Pearce, I think, disconnected or came off earlier. He's finally decided to call it a day. And Victor Bubnik in the GT2 has retired as well.
He was running really well early on in the race.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we are on Twitter on hashtag TFR SuperCup on Glacier TV. So feel free to, if you are one of those drivers, feel free to hop on Twitter and let us know what happened.
Yeah, just to mention Kimmo's pace. Sorry about that. Well, just had to. Speaking of Kimmo's pace, I had actually had the privilege to race with him this last Thursday. We had the top split of the normal Proto GT series at Suzuka, and we had 10 Ford GTs in the field in the top split, and Kimmo was one of the 2 cars without qualifying time, so he started way from the back of the pack, 9th GT out of 10, and he finished the race in 2nd. We were pretty much lapping identically ever since we got a clean track ahead of us, but I mean, yeah, Kimmo is seriously flying on this track. I don't know what he's done to his setup, but he's so much faster than against the rest of the pack than normally.
Well, he's lapping 2 seconds off his qualifying lap as well. So I think they just passed a car that was in the grass in Degman. That was either Tero Dahlberg or someone else. I think it was Tero.
And meanwhile, in the GT1 class, Peterson has just decided that he's going to drive away again from Oliver Brandt. Gap is up to 4.6 seconds now, so it's almost as though Peterson was like, okay, show me what you've got. And then said, oh, Daniel gets so close to the back of Eric Verdorf there, coming through the hairpin. Peterson was just like, okay, show me what you've got. That's not good enough, I'm going to drive away from you now. But I tell you, it must be so as Daniel goes wide and loses a position, so it gets lapped by the pink car, the number 69 of David Ward, currently sat in 7th position in the number 69, 50 seconds off the leader, Peterson, in the GT1 class. But it must be so rewarding to have a setup where you know when you can push, how much you can push, and exactly what the car will do underneath you, rather than having to drive on the ragged edge all the time.
Yeah. Also, as we can see the countdown timer on the bottom right hand side of the screen, we will be looking to count up by 3 minutes 5 seconds before we think we will see the flag out there for the leader. So we will talk you through that as and when we come to it.
So long as you don't sing the final countdown song, I don't care.
Well, I'm humming it right now.
And just to mention on the fact that the counter issue, since you brought it up, the thing behind the counter offset that we're talking you through is because in the iRacing telemetry the counter starts rolling as soon as the session starts. So it includes grading the cars plus the pace lap, which in this case luckily was a short one, but still we're working on a fix for possibly next week to get the timer sorted out so that it starts from the green flag, so you don't run into a puzzle of whether or not we're in the final stages of the race.
And I thought I might as well take the opportunity to say thank you not only to Yoni, who's the brains behind the broadcasting, but also Yari Yaneman, who's the creator of IRTVO, the iRacing TV overlay software that you can download if you're an up-and-coming broadcaster or you just want to see how it all works. And also to Jarno, who's gone to bed because he worked his backside off during the 2.4 and needs some sleep.
Yeah, Jarno is pretty much the head of the penguin spotters that are out on the circuit. He tells us everything that's going on where we can't see.
It's always nice to hear, crash and turn 2, and immediately you stop thinking, it's like, oh, okay, quick. And we saw so much good action in 2.4 that we couldn't keep up with it half the time. Right now, this battle between Daniel Arndt Wensing and Eric Veldorf is still going on. It does seem as though Daniel's really trying to see everything he can. He's going to be very close to coming for the 130R this time. And this shows because, in the HPDs and a couple of other cars, the 130R's flat, so you can use that momentum down towards the Casino Triangle, but in the GT1, especially the GT2 cars, you actually have to brake into 130R, so it's just like another corner with entry, mid, exit points, where you've got to make sure you get that if you want any chance of getting a run into the Casino Triangle. And it looks as though Daniel's not really pushing the issue there, because you don't want to run into the back of someone in one of the fastest corners on the racetrack. And at the same time, it does look like he's not as solid under braking in some of these slow corners.
Yeah, since you brought up the 130R, I have to mention that that's one of the scariest aspects of the Suzuka racetrack, especially with the Ford GTs, because like you said, HPD can take it flat out. We're talking about prototype cars here, by the way, since that are
big
not
ride.
concluded.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
just behind Daniel, Carl McGurk had to take avoidant action, lit up his brakes, then lit up his throttle. Just about caught the twitch, so I think he's going to drop off for a bit and collect himself through the Degners before he has another go at passing Daniel and Eric Veldorf.
And at the same time, William Pinier's in pit lane, and Toby Bushnell had a connection issue, so he's back in the server, but he'll lose himself a good minute and a half to 2 minutes complete with the tow that will be forced to take.
And he's not had a good race today, has he?
Definitely not. But Yoni, as you were saying about the GT2 cars.
Yeah, like I was saying, the HPD is the fastest car of the series, which is not included in this series, thank goodness. But like in the Corvettes, with the Corvette, the 130R corner is which, by the way, as soon as I start speaking again, the same Corvette makes another spin at Spoon. But yeah. When the Corvettes come to the 130R corner, they can't take it nearly flat out in qualifying trim. In race trim, they have to ease off just a little bit to get the car to turn in, go hard on the throttle, and just force the car to just rotate in. But with the Ford GT, it's a scary issue, because if you're followed by an HPD car, which is less than a second behind you when you go into that corner, what happens is the Ford GT has to brake heavily switch down to 5th gear, possibly. Some people tend to take it 6th gear. I prefer 5th gear. Brake hard, drop down to 5th, and make the car to turn in. Just wait until the car finally turns in. And while at it, the HPDs and Corvettes, they take it almost flat out or fully flat out, and they just approach you like a like with a 40-50 miles an hour speed differential, and then you have to deal with like, okay, where am I gonna dodge, because the HPD is coming so fast. So that's a scary corner with these cars. Not only mention that it's tricky to drive alone, yet you have to dodge other cars, and that makes it even more difficult. And just a couple of laps ago, when we saw Daniel Arn Wensing going for searching for a pass, that's actually a very hard corner to even follow in a close distance in order to get a good run to the chicane, because once you're that close to somebody else, you tend to miss your apex in that corner, and that missing the apex in that corner is similar to spinning or going into the wall, and that's finding the apex in that corner is so crucial.
And just as we were talking about that, David Peterson had just a tiny moment there. His right wheel's just onto that white line that we saw another car earlier on have an incident where he once almost lost it. So close to the 130R could come up at any moment. We apologise in advance to any driver. But that gap is up to 6.5 seconds now. And I'll tell you what, with just a little more than 10 minutes to go, Peterson could cruise home from here and pretty much have the race in the bag.
Yeah, but he's also at an accident away from Oliver Brown. We saw Carl McGurk earlier. Just to recap, he had a lot of trouble passing Daniel again. He had the same moment. He just couldn't decide what to do, so he avoided an action, took a bit of a spin, and taking it easy now. But certainly for David, he's got to cruise home. But he also was wary that one mistake could put a lot of pressure on him.
59 machine of Daniel Kirsten is closing up on Peter Kiermeier in the number 33 machine as they come through the one. And this is a point where you wouldn't mind being that far back and you can gain the momentum. If you get within that 5/10 of a second range, you get that dirty air on that car as you go through the corner, that's when it becomes even more difficult, as Janie was saying. So he was probably going to be closing him down as we come through this lap. Just ahead of him, the battle between Daniel Arndt Wensing and Eric Veldorf has cooled off a little bit. The gap's risen as Daniel goes onto the grass a little bit there as they come up the Dunlop hill, so the hill up the Dunlop curve. The gap's increased to about 3 seconds there between the two of them.
And John Malia makes a contact in turn 1 with, I think it was Daniel Kirsten.
Yeah, it was. They both came out of it all right. These guys, if they both finish and they both try not to take each other off, they will jump up the standings quite a lot. John obviously missed the last race, and Daniel Kirsten's just behind about 3 or 4 drivers who haven't actually taken part today. So he's going to leapfrog up the grid, up the standings.
It did seem to be that Daniel was on the outside lane with John Malia down on the inside, coming into turn 1. John managed to make the pass stick as they go into the corner. Had to brake a little bit in the middle of the corner, and Daniel just wasn't prepared for it. Just slammed into the back of him a little bit. I don't think there'll be much damage to either car, though. And Daniel Kirsten in the number 59 machine and Don Malia in the number 82 Bridgestone car, both able to continue.
It was impressive for John to keep that car pointing straight ahead as well, because he did take a bit of a tap.
Oh yeah, at a point where you want to be solidly on the brakes and not twitching left or right at all. Yeah. Turn 2 is so tricky. It
wasn't a square tap. It wasn't like a Daytona special. It was a proper on the corner.
Yeah. Oliver Brandt managed to gain about 4 tenths per second that last lap over Peterson in the number 16 in the fight for the lead. We are about to hit the counter hitting 0. We have still got 3 minutes and 5 seconds left of the race. We will update you when the white flag comes out. Peterson coming now through the 130R once again. And it's a nice solid drive home now for Peterson as far as I'm concerned. He's just got a couple more laps to go. Make sure he hits the curbs nicely coming out of the casino triangle. Holds it nicely down to the inside as they come down the start-finish line to complete lap 44. And I'll tell you what, once the field gets spread out, this really does become a race of mind over matter, because you can't lose any concentration, which at the same time, you wouldn't want to push to try and make up the time with the driver ahead of you and not lose time to the guy chasing you down.
Will, do you think Daniel Kirsten will catch John Murley in the next few laps?
He's close. He's definitely close. He has caught him.
That Kirsten's back again because he went long in the casino. John Malia lost the braking zone, locked up, went long into casino, and now Daniel is all over him like a powerful moss.
But yeah, so come through Daniel number 2 at the moment. He's definitely caught him. Whether or not he's got time in the next, what will be a lap and a half, will be interesting. I don't think he's as good on the braking. As you see, the yo-yo effect displaces this a little bit as Daniel gets a little bit loose coming out of the hairpin. I don't think he'll have the chance to make a solid move. If he does, it will have to be a very big drive coming out of this casino triangle in the last lap. For Oliver Brandt, though, the gaps kind of stay static at 6 seconds. I think Peterson's just managing that gap now. Oliver Brandt's still got a 13-second gap to Farouk Manzir in 4th, Nico Brandt in 5th, a further 8 seconds behind. Ian Rogers in... Nico Brandt's in 4th, Ian Rogers in 5th is 42 seconds behind the leaders. David Ward in the pink car, who's finished 2nd last time out, is the 6th this time by, 1 minute 3 behind the leader. Karl McGurk 1:17 behind the leader. Christian Nielsen in 8th is the last car on the lead lap, and Kimmo Zimmerman is currently 9th overall whilst leading the GT2 class.
Kirsten coming out of Spoon 2 slid, then twitched and caught it, but just ran a little bit longer. He's ran a little bit wide, so onto the grass, held it quite well, so he's back on the black stuff now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And for a number of drivers, you know, this is the point where they're so tired, they just want to give up. But at the same time, you know, they've still got one more lap to go, and they've got to make sure they can get their way through this last lap if they're gonna, you know, manage to get to checkered flag, get the points, and move on to round 4.
Yeah, can't wait for round 4. That's 8:30 next week, round 4. And as far as Glacier TV goes, we'll be showing that race in its entirety, and then followed by that race will be the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, shown at was it Daytona Road? I think it might be. Which circuit's it?
No, we're at Daytona last time. We'll find out.
Is it? It's Skip Barber. Is it Barber Motorsports?
It could be Barber. Yeah, it could be Barber. The VLR Series, however, tonight. Later on tonight, will be at Daytona. Victory Lane Racing will be at Daytona International Speedway on the oval, the B cars. And yes, it's Barber Motorsport Speedway. We have checked the CES series. David Peterson, however, coming through this boom curve for the final time. Nice break. I think that was a bit early there. He's just cruising home now. I think he doesn't want to catch a 4 GT drivers and get involved in the last corner wreck. But I tell you what, my driver of the day, if I had to pick one, isn't going to be Peterson, isn't going to be Oliver Brandt. It's definitely got to be Kimmo Zimmerman in the GT2 car. Sitting 9th overall, faster than a number of the GT1 cars, and just driven away at this race in the GT2.
That's a fair shout. It's a fair shout. Although I may differ that little. I expect great things from Kimmo all the time whenever he sits in the car. He's another driver like Nico Brandt, who's great in a lot of different disciplines. So, driver of the day. Well, it's nice to see Farouk Manzar get back into it and get quick again, as we see Peterson switching. Look at that!
Almost spun it there as
what
he crosses the line. Oh, great race by David Peterson to take the win here at Suzuka Circuit. A great way to bounce back after his incidents last week, doing donuts in turn number 1. Oliver Brandt looks like he might come and join him there. Is he? Yeah, he's going to join him. Donuts for first and second there. Oliver Brandt finishing in 2nd position overall. A great charge by him. Farouk Manzir, is he going to do a donut of his own? Nope. No. Farouk doesn't do a donut. Nico Brandt comes home across the line in 4th. Ian Rogers 5th, David Ward 6th, Karl McGurk will come home in 7th unless they crash in the last couple of corners. Please don't. Meanwhile, Kimmo Zimmerman is closing down David Ward. It looks like he's trying to overtake him coming out the final corner.
Let's see if he gives it a bit of a wiggle. I wouldn't like to give it a wiggle in a 4 GT, but that's Kimmo coming out of the last corner now, just on the start, finish straight behind the pink car, takes first place. Takes first place in GT2. Well done to and again,
Kimmo. A way to bounce back after his unfortunateness of Road America as well. So, top first driver in both GT1 GT2, a magnificent result after bouncing back from incidences last time out at Road America. Eric Veldorf is going to hold off Daniel Arndt Wensing to take second in the GT2 class. Daniel Arndt Wensing will be coming home third in the number 3 machine. Meanwhile, Neil Heckins, as you see, still got that bent wing in the Neil Heckins.NL car, the number 41 machine, will come home 14th overall in class. Solid result, gets himself a couple of points. Behind him, Peter Kaimeyer has managed to definitely get overall in the GT2. He comes home in 4th. John Malia will actually manage to keep that 5th position from Daniel Kirsten. It looks like he just gave up at the end. Didn't want to push the issue too much. And then finishing off the GT2 class will be Stefan Coppins, Christian Schick, Mario Vlasic, Tony Bushell, Sasha Rabe, Lars Brun Hansen, and your retirement woman with Penier, Victor Bubenek, David Jordan, Mark Bird, and Duncan Reed in the GT2s.
Oh, what a great race. I think a lot of people are probably quite glad this is out of the way.
Oh yeah, this is definitely one of the most... Well, we say this is a difficult track, but next week we're going to Mid-Ohio, which is a difficult track again. We are going to Mid-Ohio next week, aren't we?
No, I believe you called it correctly. Yeah, we are going to Mid-Ohio next week.
Just needed to double check there. But yeah, I mean, Mid-Ohio next week is a very, very difficult, technical, slow, stop-start track. And we've got David Peterson in the booth. David, great race, great victory. Way to bounce back after your disappointment of last week.
Yeah. Oh, well. That was a lot of fun. I'm still a little shaking at the moment.
I'll tell you what, you switched your strategy around by the look of it. A lot of drivers did a long first stint and then a short second stint. You did a very short first stint, drove away into the sunset by about 20-25 seconds, then topped the car up and did a long second stint. What was your thinking behind that one?
Let's see. Well, I've often been going for the short fuel like that, where it's just equal halves on both sides. My purpose in that, actually, when I've done long fuel and other people do short fuel, then they'll tend to leave you behind. And according to how long it should take the fuel delivery and everything, it should be faster to do the long fuel. But I find that for me, if I fall behind and then I'm out by myself, I can't keep my concentration up, and I start slowing down, and I lose the advantage that I could have gained. Of course, then this time I ended up alone in the other direction, and I still was having trouble with losing concentration through most of the beginning of the race.
And I'll tell you what, Oliver Brandt gave you a very good run for your money through the middle and latter part of the races. When you came out of pit lane, I think the gap was down to 2 seconds, and you managed to eventually pull that up to the 6 seconds towards the end of the race. Were you looking at the gap timers to see where Oliver was in relation to you after you made your pit stop to know exactly how much you needed?
I was completely blindsided by that. Prior to the pit stop, I had pulled out like 20 some odd seconds, and I knew that you could gain upwards of 10 seconds with the faster pit stop, so I was expecting that I would come out and I'd see Oliver, 10 to 20 seconds behind me, or whoever the rest of the guys were. And when I finally noticed, looking at the F3, like suddenly Brandt, wow, okay, I need to get going here, because I was really running in conservative mode for a long time there, because McKirk had qualified really well. I was really happy to see McKirk do that, by the way, because I know he's been struggling with his confidence and stuff, and so I think getting into that, and then he was able to hold that second position for a lot of the race, I'm sure that did really good things for his confidence. I think it also did some good things for me because then he was ending up kind of holding the other guys back a bit. And not to put down where he is, but he qualified in a much better position than he usually does. He's just gotten a new rig that's a faster machine, and I was tutoring him a bit on Suzuka last night, and I think that really helped him out. But he's probably going to need to have another race or two before he's really confident in the race pace. But I think we're going to be seeing a lot of him running up front.
And I just want to ask you another quick question about that strategy. Would you have done the same strategy had you have started, say, 4th or 5th, in compared to where you're starting, knowing that you'd have a clear track ahead of you?
Really, in this race, the way things went, I kind of wish that I'd gone for the long fuel strategy because I was going to end up out alone anyway. If I'm further back, I tend to prefer to be on short fuel so that I can attack the people ahead of me because that's when I'm doing the best. Much as it was doing good for me to be running way out in front with this race, that's the hardest for me because I really struggle with my concentration then, and I could just lose it and go off into a wall. I'd just about much rather have somebody else, steaming on the back of my car so that I can be into it and I can be active and thinking.
It did really show that after the pit stops, when you knew you had Oliver 2 seconds behind you, you could push more. And that was really, really exciting to watch the last portion of that race. I'm going to bring David Ward into the conversation as well. David, a bit more of a difficult race for you, but you still managed to bring the car home eventually in the end, in the 6th position, 1 minute 5 behind the race leader in the pink car. How did your race go for you?
It was that race was just damage limitation. I'm not very good at Suzuka. I was still trying to work his setup out during qualifying, so it was a case of, I am where I am.
And the track is very different from Road America, where you came second last week. This is a lot more twisty, technical corners, very different sectors of the lap you've got to always be aware of. Did that contribute to the setup difficulties you were working on?
Yeah, I was trying to get a nice balance for the whole track, but I had one section where it was really good, and then the rest of the sectors were just rubbish. So it's the first sector going up through the left, right, left. It's really difficult, and just to keep the concentration lap after lap to keep that speed. I mean, the guys up front are just phenomenal. I just let them go. There's no point in even trying to keep up with them because I would have binned it.
And you had a couple of scary moments we saw where the car did seem to almost lose it, especially when you're navigating through traffic. Was the heart in the mouth at any point during the race?
Yeah, definitely going through traffic. I know which car you were talking about. I was just on the outside of the GT40, and I completely missed my braking point and went shooting off into the gravel. Thankfully, I managed to keep it out of the tyres and carry on.
And we'll bring a couple of other drivers into the conversation at the same... Nope, we haven't got anyone else here at the moment. But both of you guys, we are moving on to Mid-Ohio next week, which once again is a very different type of track to what we've been racing here today. How's that going to form? How do you think you're going to form there in a week's time?
If it goes from last season, me and David had a really good race.
That was a lot of fun that season.
That was like introduction to Corvette racing.
And Mid-Ohio offers its own unique set of challenges. It's still a very narrow track, very difficult technical corners, and navigating through traffic at that track's always a difficult challenge. Do you think there's going to be much difficulties with traffic at the next race, or do you think it's going to be like it was today, everyone being able to find the gaps when they needed to?
No, I think it's going to be more difficult in Mid-Ohio, especially when you come off the long straight and then you basically go into the twisty infield. You'd end up sitting behind a good GT40 driver. They won't hold you up, but you won't be able to get past them so easily.
We'll bring Oliver Brandt into the conversation. Oliver, you came second in the race today. You finished 7 seconds behind Peterson, and you gave him a good run for his money throughout the race, especially in that last half an hour when you two were trading differences on the leaderboard. It was like you were up one lap, he was up the next lap. How difficult was it to try and close him down?
It was just about the hardest thing I've ever tried to do in my life. I couldn't match his pace. David was in a league of his own this race. Absolutely amazing pace. I pushed with everything I had, and I was able to maintain the gap with a little luck in traffic here and there, and ended up cooking my tires, and that was it for me. I just did not have the pace. It was David's race all day.
You did, however, manage to really drive it hard in that second half of the race. A bit like you did at Road America. You were stuck behind Farouk Manzir for the initial portion of the race, and all of a sudden it seemed like the car came alive for you and you could really attack the apexes of the corner. Do you prefer your car on the lower fuel setting and compared to when it's full of gas?
Certainly I do prefer the low fuel load, but here today at Suzuka it was more a case of me lacking confidence in the car and grip and where I could put the car and stuff like that. I struggled a lot for the first half of my first stint. But as things settled down and I got some room to race, the car sort of came to me and I got more confident. I can up the pace slightly. Nailing the pit stop, absolutely perfect. I think I had less than half a liter of fuel as I crossed the line. That helped me a lot.
I'll tell you what, it's a very difficult pit entry. Not only is you have to slow it down, but once you get into your pit box itself underneath the shadows, it always seems to be very difficult to figure out exactly where you need to stop. Bring Carl McGurk into the conversation momentarily. Carl, you had a very difficult race at some point, going across the racetrack here and there. And you had some very good battles at the same time. Came home 7th overall, 1 minute 22 behind the leader. I mean, how would you sum up your race?
Not what I would have liked, I have to confess. It didn't go quite as well as I was expecting. Mind you, I didn't quite kind of expect to find myself up lower the grid, to be brutally honest. That was the biggest shock of the weekend, to be... I haven't been showing pace like that at all. I know it was fairly quick, but nothing like that. And I know I had a fairly consistent race pace, but I just don't seem to deal with traffic particularly well, which tends to be the reason why I find myself facing the wrong way quite a lot. Just a shame, really, but hey-ho.
But at the same time, we made some very good recoveries, and how difficult is it, to come off of a slide here, and missing of an apex there, to try and get back into the zone, into the groove, and what is such a technical and difficult racetrack?
Funnily enough, I tend to struggle a little bit, and then if I slow myself down a little bit, all of a sudden I then find my groove again. But it seems to be little mistakes that I make that cause or have the biggest effect on my race pace. If you get what I'm saying, it's like it'll be a little spin that'll be the one that'll then find myself sat in the middle of the track in 4th gear trying to find first to be able to pull myself away, and it's points like that are more frustrating than anything else at the minute. But
okay, and I spoke to David about this earlier, but we're going to Mid-Ohio next week. Completely different type of racetrack again to what we've been racing at this season. And do you think you're prepared for the challenge Mid-Ohio presents? How do you think your chances are going to fare there?
I don't know really. I'm not up to, as long as I can finish at the minute, that's all I'm interested in. I'm just trying to sort of build as I've had a really quite a bad run with one thing or another over last season and the beginning of this season, so it's nice to have had my first finish under my belt, and now it's just a case of trying to build up my consistency and reducing the amount of incidents I'm having, and and dealing with traffic better. Mid-Ohio is a very difficult circuit, but I do quite enjoy it actually. I've run it in Grand Am, and I've run it last season with the Corvette a couple of times, and I should get some laps under my belt, and I should be away again hopefully, and hopefully try and get myself a little bit more consistent this time for next week.
And same question to you, Oliver?
In Ohio, it's going to be difficult with traffic, with the 4TT and the Corvette being very closely matched. Catch a Corvette into after the back, or I mean, if you catch a 4TT in the Corvette after the back straight, you're probably going to be stuck behind the fast ones all the way to the finish line. There's not much to do. Just there's some cooperation or slower car.
And we did have to ask a question, Oliver, because we were discussing it in commentary all race long. Is it Nico who's your daughter, or are you Nico's daughter?
No, it was a bad joke. Really, we're not related at all.
Yeah, we just wanted to make some fun today in the commentary. We've been only doing it for
He's definitely the daughter. He's more stroppy.
Definitely the daughter. I mean, I don't think I could pass as a girl with my voice.
So I think that concludes our broadcast here of round 3 of the Talk Creek Racing Super Cup. We'll be updating the point standings, which you'll be able to see on talkcreekracing.com, I believe, unless I got the web address wrong, in which case someone can shout at me very quickly. We will be back next week, same time, same place, 8:30 p.m. for round 4 at Mid-Ohio. Until then, from myself, Will Vincent, and Rob Sutherland over there, a very good evening to you, and goodbye.
Good night.